and we are live. Today, I have a guest who is also known as the Face Whisperer. She's a body language expert with over 25 years of experience helping leaders, negotiators, and individuals understand what people really feel beneath the surface. She specializes in reading signals that we send, and we'll go a bit more on that topic today. Uh, and We'll explore about body language and in some ways hopefully understand how to read it without jumping into wrong conclusions. Um, so welcome to the podcast, Adrienne.
Thank you very much. Thanks for inviting me.
Let's jump into the meat or the topic that I like the most. And everyone is obsessed with reading the facial language
Mm.
that we portray. But what I read in an article is that the most truthful part of the human body is not necessarily the face, but it's the legs and the feet. Why are legs and feet considered the most honest part of the human body, especially in comparison to the face?
Okay. So when we think about body language and facial expressions and we're in a tricky situation, what's the first thing we do? We regulate our body language. We regulate our facial expressions.
Mm.
However, whoever thinks to regulate their feet ever? No one ever thinks about regulating their feet. So that's why it's often said it is the most truthful part of the body. Because, you watch people, whether it's in a networking, a social situation, a work situation, they don't regulate their feet. They might regulate their facial expressions and, go poker faced because they don't want to reveal anything. They might hold their body language really still and really steady. But people forget about the feet. So the feet, I often find, are the most interesting and truthful part of the body language. I have been known in negotiations to accidentally, on purpose, drop a pen on the floor so I can see under the table what people are doing with their feet. It
That's
works
smart.
every time. If someone's bouncing their legs and their feet are going 10 to the dozen, that tells me that they're excited or they're stressed. And you can
Mm.
generally work out from what's being said and their faces whether it's excitement or stress. So the feet will give you many, many clues, but people just don't realize how truthful they often are.
And the first time I found that out was for my personal reasons. Um, I was approaching my current wife and back then my friend, and I was so scared of getting rejected. So I was like, I want to be 100% sure that this is the right thing and the right approach. So I started reading about body language, and the first thing I read was I didn't know that the truthful part was the legs or the feet, but I read that focus on the feet. And and then what I noticed was in the conversations, we in a group of people, her feet was always pointed towards me. So I was like, okay, this is not a bad signal.
No, not
So
at all.
hopefully I can start approaching her, and now, yeah, she's my wife and her feet no longer points to me now. It's
Yeah.
to my son.
I did notice your language as well because language is part of body language and part of what we say. You did say current wife, so I'm hoping that's not a bad sign.
No, no, no. She's my current. Yeah, this was 12 years ago, or yeah, 12 years ago when we were colleagues, and I approached her, and back then I had no idea about body language. It was just a quick Google search, and they said focus on the feet, and I was like, okay, let me try that out. But
Yeah.
over the last 12 years, I've started noticing people's feet in the metro, in the trains. Again, I'm not an expert. It's just my brain just automatically goes there, and I can see, okay, what are people thinking based on their feet expressions?
Yeah, it's a good one.
So
It's
that,
always a good one to look out for.
yeah, I mean, but is this giving a lot of information? For example, I follow a bit of football. In football, it's always the feet, right? That does a lot of work. And during like the crunch situations, when there is like a penalty shootout, I did try to predict that, like, okay, is this person going to shoot right or left? But I'm not able to get that right 100% of the time. I'm like, okay, I'm not an expert. I know that. But is there a way in which sports realize this, or football realize this, and people who are like goalkeepers or who are scoring goals ha- are already mindful of it and trying to hide that.
Yeah, absolutely. Because you can train yourself to hide it because
Mm,
you're conscious of it. It's just in normal
mm,
day-to-day lives, people aren't conscious of their feet, but footballers particularly, yeah, I don't watch a lot of football, but I have seen them do a little dance just before they go to take a penalty because they want to confuse the goalkeeper. They don't want the goalkeeper to anticipate where the ball is coming from so that they can get it into the net. So they do purposely, they practice that. When the footballers are training, they practice that
mm,
movement because they don't want to give it away. Because if they give it away, the goalkeeper can anticipate. So
mm.
with any body language, we can train ourselves. The best body language, though, is if you do need to train yourself to do a certain thing with your body, it needs to feel authentic for it to be believed by other people. Authenticity when it comes to body language is what we're reaching for. We're reaching for alignment. We're reaching for authenticity because then people buy into us. So I don't know, you probably didn't see it, but in the lockdowns and COVID, when Boris Johnson was doing his daily briefing at 5 p.m., he used his body language very specifically, and he would do this when he was trying to make a point. We must do, but it wasn't, his fist pumping was never in time with his words. So
Mm.
that tells me he's doing that on purpose. It's not something that's authentic. It's not aligned with how he really feels, particularly, but he knows that's a powerful gesture to do, is that throwing the fist. And it was to highlight his words. But people didn't buy into it because it wasn't authentic, and they didn't know why. They were like, "There's something about this that I don't really buy into," but they didn't know why. Well, it's because the words and the movement weren't in perfect synchronicity, which they should be when it's authentic.
That's very interesting. And I've also realized that when I am a part of an interview, so being an interviewer, I have noticed that people sometimes come into the interview and sit like this in the beginning.
Yeah,
And within the first two questions, it is like
yeah,
the body language changes. And mainly, since we are in the topic of legs and feet, I've seen that instantly when the first question is asked, the legs are, or the feet lock happens.
yes,
And I don't know what it means, but all of a sudden they are just uncomfortable. But when I start the question like, how was your day? Or what did you eat? Or something that is very natural, they tend to relax and then
yeah.
the feet comes forward. So that was an interesting observation from my side, but is there a story or a meaning behind it?
And the leg lock is normally making themselves small and holding it all in.
Mm,
So trying to keep it, it's a sign of stress and anxiety. If I see the legs lock, I'm not talking about just knees over knees, but when they actually lock the legs, it's to, oftentimes they say keep themselves from running away because they actually feel really uncomfortable and stressed. Whereas if you lock your legs, you can't run away. So it's sort of containing that natural instinct.
and is this natural instinct coming from evolution? Like our ancestor brain or whatever that
Yeah.
is fed into us, is it just trying that this is danger, even though it's an interview?
Yeah.
It's
It's danger.
danger
I
and
mean, the brain doesn't really understand literal danger and psychological danger because in an interview, there's no physical danger. Well, there shouldn't be,
mm,
but there
mm,
is psychological danger. And
mm,
fear is all about, am I safe? Am I in psychological danger or literal danger? The brain doesn't know the difference between psychological and literal danger. It's just danger.
mm,
So the leg lock is to stop that primal instinct to run away from danger.
mm. Is that also related to the feet pointing? Because if I am in a metro station
Mhm,
and I'm talking to someone, I realize that their feet are sometimes pointed towards the door of the metro.
mhm.
So is that a way of saying that I'm not interested in your conversation? I need to go and pick the metro or something like
Yeah,
that.
it's not always that they're not interested. It could just be that, like, I don't know about you, but I am a panicker about missing a train or missing a
Yes.
bus or whatever it is. So I will always be hyper conscious that it might be coming and I probably want to go. So it's not that they're not interested per se. I mean, it could be, but it could just be that they're worried about missing their connection.
Mm.
train or the better
Okay.
what it is, whatever it is. So don't always assume it's a negative meaning that the feet are pointing away. It could just be that they need to go and do something else that is playing on their mind. I often say to people when I'm training them, if the feet aren't pointing towards you, don't assume they don't like you. Don't assume. It could just be they've got something they need to do and it's bothering them and they need to go and sort it. I will always say if I see it in an interaction and someone's feet are pointing away, I'm just like, I can see you need to go. And they'll often say, "Yeah, I really do. Thank you for that. I need to go and do da 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 da, but I'll come back to you." And you leave them on a really nice term when you do that. Or they'll say, "Actually, do you know, I don't need to go. I've probably got another half an hour," but they just wanted you to know, and it's all subconscious. They just wanted you to know that they're on a time limit. So,
Mm.
if I do see the feet pointing away, I don't assume it's negativity, but I do assume, or we'll try and clarify, is there something that's bothering them that they need to go and do or to sort or to leave?
Mm. Is there anything that is interesting about the feet that is completely subconscious? For example, feet pointing is one of the example. Are there any other, leg locking is another example? Are there any other examples that are like inherent in our brains?
It's the feet bouncing, they when people jiggle their feet, as I
Mm.
said earlier, that's stress or excitement, and you can
Mm.
only work out which one it is in the context you are in and hearing what's being spoken. I can't think of any other ones with the feet. I think that's
My
it.
old boss did a lot of feet jiggling when he was sitting quietly, and I thought that he's just thinking about something. I didn't know that he was excited or stressed. Or
It could be.
okay.
It could just be processing. I was in a workshop a couple of weeks ago, and a young man said, "Oh, I fidget all the time with my hands, and my feet are always jiggling." And I said, "Okay, are you just processing?" He said, "I don't know why I do it." I said, "Do you
Mm.
need to do it? Because some people who are neurodivergent need that activity, and it's something they can't really stop." He said, "No, no, I don't need to do it. I don't know why I do. I think it's just a habit." So I said to him, "Stop it. If it is just a habit, just train yourself to stop it because you're sending a message that
Mm.
that maybe you're nervous or you're excited or maybe sending a message that you don't intend to send. So if it's not something you need to do, if it's something you need to do, then just
Mm.
explain to people, sorry about my bouncing feet, but when I get excited or when I'm processing information, my feet start jiggling. So just ignore it. And once you
Mm.
do that, your body relaxes and they relax because they're not trying to read anything in it.
Moving upwards from the feet. That I do. I did a lot of martial arts 5 6 years ago, and in the martial arts, what we were taught was, if you are talking to a stranger and you have no trust on the stranger and the stranger can attack you, you get that feeling that
Mhm.
a stranger might attack you. You please stand in the follow, like, we were taught a stance, like stand like this,
Yeah,
so that if there is an
protection.
attack that coming in, you're saving your vital organs, and at the same time you can defend yourself. So that was very interesting for me. Is there something that is innately in our brain that tries to protect our vital organs or the torso area of our body when we're talking to someone stranger, like people who we don't
Yeah.
know about?
Yeah, absolutely. Not always. Sometimes we subconsciously pick up information from other people that we don't realize we're picking up that
Mm.
gives us a red flag about them. I had it recently, well, it's a few months ago now. Me and my husband were at a train station,
Mm.
and a young man came up to my husband and said, "Can you, with his phone, can you tell me how to get to Erdington, which is one of the stops on our way?" And I butted in a little bit rudely, but I just said, "Oh no, no, we're not going that way." And my husband looked at me, it was a bit strange. Anyway, and the young man said, "Oh, but I want to go to Erdington." I said, "Oh, if you look at the signs over there, that'll tell you." And I redirected him away because, firstly, I spotted things about his body language, subconsciously, I think, but I felt he was a danger, he was a threat. His phone wasn't showing a map, it was showing just a blank screen. So why was he using his phone as if to say, "Can you help me?" I just didn't like, I don't know, I just didn't like the energy. When we got on the train, he did actually follow us onto the train, which wasn't the train he should have got on for the direction he asked. So we moved seats a couple of times, and he didn't get off, which would have at a station that would have connected him. He did eventually get off because we kept moving and I was watching him, and I let him know I was watching him so that I was aware of him. It was just all very odd. But people with that, if you don't if we don't trust someone, I suddenly found my buttoning my coat up, protecting my organs. I was sat like this, protecting my vital organs. Not that he did anything like, come towards us or anything, but I felt the need to protect. And it's something we do instinctively. And people will also do this when they're stressed or feeling in danger. If I go to the neck, another vital organ, one of the most vulnerable parts of
Mm,
the body and often on display. So when people
mm,
feel in threat or danger, they will close themselves in and they will, protect themselves. We don't always do it consciously. It's not a conscious like, "Oh, I need to protect myself." It's only when you look back you think, "Oh, I was actually protecting myself there," uh,
mm.
that we do this.
And when this person approached you, you sensed danger. Is there anything on from his body language that indicated you that this person
I couldn't
might be
say specifically one thing. I couldn't
okay?
tell you what it was, but I
Okay.
just felt it. I just and, subconsciously, my subconscious made have picked something up that I didn't
Mm,
rationally know, but I just felt it. Um, on other instances, when we've been out maybe for the evening and we're walking back to the station and we'll see a load of young men with hoodies on, and my husband will be like, "Oh, let's cross over." And I'm like, "No, no, they're fine." And I can just tell by their facial expressions, logically, yeah, these are no threat. These are fine. We can keep walking. Absolutely fine. So it's not that I see everybody around me as a threat because I really don't. But just occasionally, someone, I think, okay, don't know why, but we need to be a bit cautious here.
but I've also seen people when they are faced with threat, they either uh, what do you call
Yes, clench the
get hold of their fist or grab hold of their purse. Like I've seen people when they're walking and there is a person like me and my wife, we were walking in a street and that was like a dark street or a not very well lit street. And there was a person who was just casually walking behind us. And my wife, all of a sudden, her body language changed and she held her purse, she grabbed my hand, and then she started walking
yes.
close to me. And then I turned back, and then it was just another random person walking behind us. But that feeling changed her body language, and she grabbed hold of things that are very important to her at that point.
Absolutely, and that's where, thieves and people, like, in the streets know what to go that's of value because the thing that you
Mm.
grab is the thing that's got the value to it.
So they are also learning the body language.
Yes, they are, and they often know it instinctively. So I was training a lady last week in London, right by Harrods, and Saudi Arabian lady, she's got some very nice, um, accessories, shall we say,
Mm.
and she held on to her accessories the whole time because she obviously knew and felt that's where the value was. So if someone was going to attack her, she was protecting her valuables. But they also know, the people who are intent on bad things, they know the thing that you instinctively hold on to, that's where the value is. Forget about the pockets. It's what's in the bag or the bag itself that could be of high value. If someone goes to the pockets, okay, and ignores the bag, we'll ignore the bag because there's nothing of high value or it's not high value accessory, but what's of value is in the pocket.
Wow, that's new information to me. And I've also noticed in my professional work environment when I have a disagreement with my colleagues, all of a sudden their body language changes, and the torso, which was once pointing to me,
Mm,
sometimes changes the direction, or they are not interested in having that confrontational dialogue, but they want to move away from the
yes.
dialogue. Is what I sensed sometimes when I'm talking to them. Is
Yeah.
that true, or
Yeah,
is there some?
absolutely. Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely true. Our torso, again, we will point towards things we like and move it away
Mm,
from things we don't like or don't want to be engaged in.
mm,
Conversations, maybe. So, yeah, absolutely.
okay. Um, Another point that I've made a note here is the hand gestures, or like moving away from torso and moving to hands and to face. What I've
Mhm,
made a note here is that mm, there are articles which say if you want to portray confidence, show your hands like these or have a good firm handshake.
mhm.
And in my mind, I was like, okay, you can sit like this and you can have a firm handshake, but are they not the symptoms of being confident? And does that mean the person is actually confident? And in my head, confidence is something that happens internally,
I
and
agree.
you have like a very good nervous system that cannot be easily triggered.
I
And that
agree.
gets reflected with all the gestures that comes out naturally. But can that, like you said, can we train our body to fake it even though you're breaking down within? Can you appear to be confident?
I believe that we will always leak how we really feel. So if
Mm,
someone is faking confidence, I can spot it a million miles off, but that it is my daily life and I have done it for 25 years. But you can train yourself to spot it because if they suddenly become loud and you think there there's something doesn't feel right here. It could be they think that confidence is loud. Confidence is very rarely loud. Confidence is
mm,
normally quiet, actually. Um,
mm,
you can train yourself to sit like that,
mm,
but if it doesn't feel natural, there'll be other things that happen within your body language or your facial expression or the words that come out that will undermine that. I'm a big believer in authenticity. I don't think you can fake it till you make it.
mm,
I think if you truly feel confident inside, your body language will show it naturally. It's not something you have to fake. So I would rather help people feel genuinely more confident than fake it till they make it. I don't want to
mm.
help anyone fake it till they make it because other stuff will leak. Their facial expressions will leak. The words will leak how they really feel. Whereas let's really actually feel that true confidence inside because that will then create a very authentic and aligned image of the person.
And based on my personal experience, when I just moved to Denmark and I got a job here in a startup company, I was working with like CEOs and CTOs,
Mhm.
and I knew my knowledge was not. I couldn't compare my knowledge to the CEOs and the CTOs. So I used to get super nervous. Like in the meeting, I was all sweaty. I was just my hands were like a bit like I was trembling. And while I was reading about it, what I realized is that it's a bad sign of a nervous system. And what the understanding that I got was if I do some physical exercise or if I do some training exercise which constantly stresses my nervous system, this will improve. I would get like a natural confidence from within. But what I've realized over the last 5 6 years is that this has reduced. Even though I don't have enough knowledge within me, I am able to not go and fall apart in front of people that have higher knowledge than I have, and I attribute that to physical exercise, even though there's no science behind it in my head. But do you agree on these points?
So what exercise does is helps regulate the nervous system by getting rid of the excess energy that we don't
Mm,
need. So if you are feeling nervous or know you don't have as much knowledge, if you've got rid of that excess by being exercising, then there's nowhere you don't it doesn't need to you've regulated your nervous system. So there's
mm,
other things that we can do. If you touch this point here on your neck, that also, if you rub it for 30 seconds, that can help regulate your nervous system.
oh,
So when people are nervous, you often see them touching their neck here, and they don't know why. But that actually, if you rub it for 30 seconds or more and keep rubbing it, and you are nervous, it will help calm your nervous system down so that you don't. What happens is when we are really nervous, our mind takes over and we get more nervous and we think of all the negative things and all the bad things. And, oh, then you've got all this energy running through your body. Um, but what actually just breathing can help calm it down.
but it's very difficult to
It is.
bring your brain back to saying let's
It
breathe.
is.
Based on my experience, when I go to a stage and I start talking, never have I ever thought, okay, let me pause for a second and let me breathe. It has never occurred to me. I'm like, okay, I don't like the silence. Let me fill up the silence with
Yeah,
something.
and
And
actually, you should train yourself to do that. So I do a lot of public speaking, and there's a couple of techniques that I use. One is
mm,
what I call the letting go theory process, letting go
mm,
process. So if I'm getting really nervous, rather than try and push the nerves away or push them down or ignore them, I'll let it be there. So if I'm going on the stage and I say half an hour before and I'm really nervous, okay, I'm just going to let the nerves be there. Okay,
mm,
it's all right to be there. And how strong is it? Oh, it's about 8 out of 10 nerves. Okay, we'll just feel it. Just let it be there. Just let it be there. And what happens? It starts to dissipate of its own accord. It starts to go down. And then I take some conscious breaths. So that also helps calm the nervous system down. I walk up onto the stage. The first thing I do is I don't start talking.
mm,
I look at that side. I look at that side. I look at that side. And that pause is probably no more than 5 seconds. It feels like 5 years when you first start doing it, but it's probably no more than 5 seconds. And I just
mm.
make eye contact and smile at people. And I've got my first line practiced to a T. And then I pause after that first line. And all of these things are the opposite to what your body and brain wants to do. Is like doing the opposite down. The audience then responds really well. You've got their you've paused. People don't normally pause. The slower you speak, and I'm not talking about really slow, but the slower you speak and the start off, you come across as more confident. And because you come across more confident, you feel more confident. And it's kind of this loop, mind body loop. You've calmed yourself down. I must be safe.
Mm.
I'm safe. Okay, I can do this. I know what I'm talking about. Go.
The thing that scares me the most is my brain going blank in an important moment. Like right now, if I'm not able to collect my thoughts and if it just goes blank, I'm not able to embrace that blankness. And
But why not? I have done that. I'm a lady of a certain age, and sometimes my brain fog takes over. I have been on stages where I've gone, oh, that's interesting. It's all just gone for a minute. And I kind of make a little bit of a joke of it, like, bear with 1 second, bear with. Okay, we're back on target. We're human. We don't need to
mm,
be perfect. And I get people
mm,
come up to me afterwards and go, I really liked how you did that. How did you do that so easily? We didn't feel uncomfortable. You obviously weren't uncomfortable. How did you do that? Like, I've
mm,
practiced it. I know that if I ever do go blank, I've got something in my head that I know I can say.
mm,
People also worry about questions and like they worry about public speaking because they're going to get asked questions.
mm,
I've also got a phrase prepared. So if anybody ever asks me a question that I don't know the answer to, I don't need to panic. My answer is, that's a really good question. I've never been asked that one before. And do you know what? I
mm.
now need to know the answer to that too. So I'm going to get back to you. Thank you for asking such an interesting question.
And that reflects authenticity also.
True, because I don't need to know everything. I don't need to be perfect. Yes, I always want to do a good job. The need to be perfect can actually really work against us. So I just have a few things that I can comfortably say for the things that I might worry about that
Mm,
very rarely happen. I think twice I've had to use my phrase about going blank in the whole of
mm,
my 20 years speaking career. But it's
mm,
there if I need it, which gives me peace of mind.
mm.
And it's human.
It is human and people do go blank. It's just that how you cope up with it
How you handle
and
it. Yeah.
how you handle it is very important. And if you don't have that experience or if you have not gone blank and been embarrassed and been nervous or uncomfortable, you come back and reflect on it, I don't think you'll be able to, if you don't know that that's the problem, then it's difficult to find a solution for it. And that's what there are people who might struggle with that. Okay, I don't even know that that's the problem, and my brain takes over, and then I let my brain do whatever it wants, and I come out as stupid. So that's what I have observed in few people. Um, okay, coming like, are there any other points, like you mentioned, this was very interesting, to calm the nervous systems. Is there any other thing that people can do other than like this breathing, there's rubbing this part of the body, that is taking that pause, embracing that silence? Is there anything else that people need to know about to calm themselves or to, yeah.
I mean, often you'll find people self-soothe themselves. So doing this.
Mm,
rubbing the neck, touching the face. And I would say use that information about yourself to understand yourself better. You know, everyone thinks about body language as helping me to read other people. Actually, think of your body language as something to help you read you too. What do I need in this situation? Obviously, I've gone for my arms and I find myself do it. I don't ever try to, on the whole, regulate my own body language because it's giving me a message and it's a message I need to understand because once I understand the message, I then can tackle it. I then can, you know, do whatever I need to do. So if I find myself doing this and it's not because I'm cold, but I'm self soothing, okay, what am I uncertain about? What do I need? What would help me in this situation? So
mm,
use your own body language as understanding what you need. You know, when we make ourselves small, we feel threatened and in danger. When we feel confident, we often take up more space and we put our shoulders back and our head up, you know, chin level. So, what, because, and I said this before about the mind body link. If you are feeling nervous, the worst thing you can do is then the behaviors that, you know, so if you find yourself doing this, I often find my shoulders high if I'm a bit tense. So I just drop my shoulders and just start
mm,
noticing how you are holding yourself. Do you need
mm.
to hold yourself that way? Is it just a habit? Or is it giving you a message that actually you might need some help or you might be feeling sad or whatever it is? Use your own body language to help yourself.
And is that across uh, both men and women, the soothing part of the body? Because I have also female listeners in the podcast. Is this also applicable to men who can soothe themselves by its universal
Yeah.
soothing? Okay, soothing techniques. That's interesting. Um, Another line that I read, which I found interesting, and I know it's true, is people say face is mind's canvas.
Mhm.
The facial expression is like conscious performance of what mind is actually thinking of, right? What are there any key um, expressions or key things that we need to notice when we are interacting with people? Let's say in a meeting or when we're meeting with strangers, what are the things that we need to focus on?
I mean, how long have you got? Because this is
We've
my
got time.
absolute favorite topic to talk about. People don't often notice facial expressions as well as they could do
Mm,
because our faces are, you know, we're not wearing masks anymore. COVID's gone. Well, we're not gone, but we're not wearing masks. People say so much with their face. They may
mm,
say literal words, but their face may say the opposite. I'm always going to believe the facial expression. So here are some of my favorites to watch for. So there's this. So it's for those who are just listening and not viewing, it's the lip corner on one side. It could be left or right, but just one side, the lip corner turning up as if in a half smile. So it's a
mm,
smile on one side of the face, but neutral on the other side of the face. That means if I see that in a conversation, this person feels superior in some way. If it's a negotiation, I probably need to know what they're feeling superior about because they've got knowledge that I don't know that I perhaps need. If it's in a dating situation, the person who is showing the one-sided lip corner up, they're feeling superior in some way, and they're
mm,
probably on the lookout for someone better. If it's in a
mm,
job interview, someone comes for an interview. I do some recruitment with some of my clients. Someone comes for a job interview and they're showing high levels of contempt, so that one side lip turned up. Um, this person either thinks they're better than the interviewer or better than the job role. Either way, they are going to be a nightmare to manage. So that's one expression that tells you so much. I don't always respond to it. You know, if I'm pitching, I'm in a very lucky position that I've got some very nice clients. I don't need to work with anyone that's an idiot or thinks they're better than me. So I'm not going to work with that person and I don't need to tackle it or challenge it. I'm just moving on. Thank you very much. Nice to meet you. Goodbye. Because
mm,
I don't need any stress in my life. Another facial expression that tells a lot, and people do it all of the time, is this nose wrinkling. That's it, nose wrinkling. And they'll often, when they're talking about something, they'll say, "Oh, this is a really good project. I've really enjoyed working on this project." I know straight away they've said the right thing. They've actually really not enjoyed it. There's something about they didn't like. So that nose wrinkling I've discussed is is a cue. I say to my husband, "Should we go for a Chinese tonight?" And I go, "Oh, yeah, yeah, you can do if you want." No, he doesn't really want to. So I don't say, "Well, I can see you don't like that idea." What I would say is, "Would you prefer to go for Italian instead?" "Oh, yeah, I'd like to go for Italian." Completely different facial expression. So people are telling us all the time with their faces how they feel about stuff. They might say one thing, but actually their words are not saying the truth. The face probably is. Genuine smiles versus fake smiles or posed smiles. So
Mm.
many people see a smile and they think, "Oh, that's it. These people are on board." This is a fake smile or a posed smile. All that happened is my lips moved. This is a genuine smile, and that's included my eyes. So the
Okay.
crow's feet, the wrinkle in the eyes, the bunching underneath the eyes, and the lips turning up. That's a genuine smile. That's a sign of agreement. In meetings, people come out and they're like, "That meeting went really well. I didn't see any negativity, but nothing's happened. They're not going to go ahead." And I'll say to my clients, "So did you see genuine smiles?" Well, we saw smiles, but were they genuine? Did their eyes engage?
Mm.
I don't know. I said, "Well, you'd know the difference." A genuine smile is a sign of agreement we're on the right page. I will
Mm.
never leave a meeting with a client if I don't see a genuine smile because there's some more work for me to do. There's something I haven't quite achieved. Because a genuine smile is agreement. I'm on board. Yes, it's all good. Whereas a polite smile or a fake smile, there's something that's not hit the mark.
Mm. And this can be very useful
Very
in
useful.
many scenarios, especially in the dating world, wherein you are meeting a person, you're meeting an unknown person, because if it's your first date, you might not know a lot about that person.
Yep.
And a genuine smile, knowing how to recognize a genuine smile, obviously it can be faked. Can it not? Can a genuine smile not be faked? Or like if I just know that I need to engage this part of my, I can consciously give an effort to fake it, but I guess some other parts of my body would leak that information. And
Absolutely, yeah. And people don't generally fake genuine smiles. It's
mm,
normally a posed smile, so just the mouth, rather than the whole face engaged. You want for a genuine smile, the whole face engaged, and people don't fake that. That either
mm,
happens or it doesn't happen.
mm. Are there anything like if a person is going on a first date, are they supposed to know few things about facial expressions so that they can find the red flags, or they can find that this person is someone who's compatible with me? Is
Yeah,
there something like that?
I mean, I always say to because I do quite a bit in the dating world. I always say to singles, look out for that contempt, that half smile. Do not waste your time on this person because they're looking for someone better. They think you're not good enough. They think they're
Mm,
superior in some way, so that for me would be the biggest red flag. If the
mm,
feet are pointing away to the door and they're interacting with you, another red flag. We lean in towards things we like, that's a good sign. We lean away from things we don't like, a red flag. We put barriers in front of ourselves when we want to protect ourselves, say, could be holding a bottle in front of themselves, a cushion or whatever it is. But if they find or a menu, they find something to put between as a barrier, they're creating a literal barrier. So again, another bit of a red flag. Could just be discomfort and that it's, meeting someone new. So I'd give them chance. Don't write people off too quickly, but
what I've
they're flags.
what I've noticed is that I do a lot of barrier behavior because I have a fat accumulated in my lower area. So I want to hide it. I mean, I'm doing this subconsciously. So when I'm meeting friends and we are playing like board games, I'm always the one with the pillow
Yes.
on. And
Yes.
I didn't know that it was considered to be a negative thing. But I'm just doing it to hide my physical appearance, I guess, right? Um, but that could not necessarily mean a bad thing in dating. But what if they are conscious about their body and they're just trying to hide it? Maybe the context also matters when you're having that barrier.
Totally. Context always matters. I will never do a public speaking event in a new outfit ever because I don't know if that outfit's going to be comfortable or not. So
Wow.
if that outfit isn't comfortable and it's the first time I've worn it and I start fiddling with this or this or this, I'm showing signs of discomfort. The audience doesn't know it's my new dress or my new outfit that's making me uncomfortable.
Mm,
So I don't want to send signs of discomfort when I'm talking. On a first date, don't wear an outfit you've never worn before because it might be uncomfortable and you might be sending the signs of discomfort. Might be nothing to do with the other person. It might just be that the top really itches. But you
mm,
don't think to say, "Oh, actually, this top is really itchy." You wouldn't think to say that, but they'll pick up the signs of discomfort. So it's about being aware of yourself and other people. And, like you just said, you hold a barrier because you're uncomfortable. I used to do the same. The difference is I would say, "I'm just hiding my big belly." So people don't
okay.
think I'm uncomfortable. Or I'd say
Mm,
something like, "Oh, I really need to get to the gym." Because, I need to shift this. So I would make sure people know why I'm uncomfortable rather than
mm,
leaving it for them to work out for themselves, because we don't always know why someone is uncomfortable. But if we know why,
mm. It's good to
then
put it out there.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And what about in the dating world? Are there any signs that would say that the person is interested in me and this is going really well and this can go on a for a long time or it can turn into a serious thing?
So leaning in, people will lean in. We
Mm,
also touch things that we like. So I'm not talking about intimate touching, but like just a tap on the hand or tap on the knee or the shoulder or the arm somewhere that's not too personal. We touch things we like. We move closer to things we like.
mm.
We often do this. I will show you on my face now. The
Like,
eyebrow flash.
okay, okay.
That's a sign of interest. I always say in a pitch meeting, a first date, if you see the eyebrow flash,
Mm,
they're interested.
mm. That is very interesting.
Mm.
Because I do it a lot and I know that I do it. It's just that now when you say it, it hit my brain that I do it a lot.
I do it a lot too,
uh,
naturally. I do it a lot too. As I've been talking, I know I can feel myself doing it because it's interesting.
mm,
We're having an interesting conversation. So my eyebrows will show that and will reflect that. And sometimes
mm,
when I'm speaking, I feel my eyebrows go, think, "Oh, that was interesting. I've just said that, but I've interested myself with that."
mm.
Yeah, eyebrow flashes are a really good one to look for.
When I did the reading, and this is from a man's perspective, is that if you're going on a date, and the woman does something with their hair or play with their hair, that is also considered to be a good sign. But I have observed many people who just do it for the sake of it, and I don't think, yeah. Is there anything for that people need to focus on?
So you've got to understand whether it's a habit or whether it's a sign of flirting. So some women, I watch people when I'm in a bar, I see them doing this. By looking at their facial expressions and the rest of their body language, you can generally work
Mm,
out whether it's a flirtation or whether it's just boredom or a habit. The reason why women do this with the hair is because it exposes the wrist. And
mm,
when we fancy someone, we expose our wrists. Men, when they fancy women, will often pull their sleeves up because they're showing the forearms. So, and we don't even know we do this, but
okay.
men show their forearms when they're interested and attracted, and women expose their wrists or their neck when they're
Is
attracted.
there anything to do with the prehistoric era,
It's
which
about showing the vulnerability. So I like
mm,
you. I feel safe around you. I'll show you my neck. I'll show you my wrists. Both very vulnerable parts of the body.
it's also the main arteries, right? Like you have an artery here, you have an artery here. Maybe it's the like the blood flowing thingy, or I don't know. It in martial arts they say that never expose your neck and
Mhm.
never expose your wrists because these are the two main arteries and blood
Where
flows
you're
through
most
them.
vulnerable.
So that maybe that's the reason for them to expose the vulnerable sides, um, and that's the dating world. But if I'm a parent and I have a young one, I mean he's just 2 years. I don't think that there is any body language I need to decode now. It's just everything coming out naturally. But if they are in the teenage or if they are in a grown up age, is there something that would indicate that they're good doing well in their life, or they are stressed, or there is anxiety that the parents have to, keep an eye out?
Yeah. So I don't ever, I don't ever, but I don't often focus on lies or truth. I focus on
Mm,
comfort and discomfort because we
mm,
all instinctively know when someone's comfortable and when someone's uncomfortable. So if you've got teens, I'd want to know, are they comfortable or are they uncomfortable body language? If they're uncomfortable, there's probably something going on internally. Some of the facial expressions you can look for is this: lips stretch back. If they do that a lot, they're anxious, anxiety. The lines across the forehead that some people have, they are a sign of anxiety. My daughter has them, she's 31, but she's got deep lines because she worries about everything. She worries about work and the dogs, and she worries about everything. But someone who's a worrier will get these. In a teenager, we want to reassure them and help them. So if we notice the lips stretching back towards the ears and the lines across the forehead, there's some anxiety. So how can we reassure them? How can we help them? They're feeling uncertain. And I'd say that for teenagers and young people, that's one of the key ones to look for.
very interesting. And I've also read, or I've seen videos in one of the podcasts where the person was talking about these four lines, and
Mhm.
he was the FBI person. I don't know if it's a director or someone. He talked about when they are approaching a person who is a potential asset, they are first looking for the forehead signs, and they're thinking if this person is approachable, like if they have, like you said, if they have these marks on the forehead, there are signs which can say that they are a public, like a pleaser person, public pleaser, or they are person who's like very introvert and they're very stressful. Is there anything that you have that you can share to the audience about these? That's very interesting to me.
Yeah. So I call them the lines of conscientiousness.
Mm,
So I don't write people off if I see these lines thinking, oh, they're full of anxiety, full of nerves, they'll be no good to me, or they'll be no good in this job. I actually
mm,
think the opposite. I think this is a person who worries. Now, I want to find out what they worry about. But
mm,
if it's normal worries like, "Oh, yeah, I really needed to get this report finished on time, and I was worried I didn't get it finished," good, because they are conscientious. They're gonna worry about doing a good job for me or my
mm,
clients. So these
mm,
are the people that I'm actually really interested in. That's not to
mm,
say if you haven't got these lines that you're not conscientious.
mm,
They're just an outward sign that you can spot quite easily that thinks, "Okay, this person's quite conscientious, probably." Probably. We can never say more than probably because we don't know. We can't read someone's mind by understanding their body language and their facial expressions. But what it can do by recognizing the signs is help us ask really good questions. So if
mm,
I'm in a client meeting, so I was in one last week, I've got a client that I'm working with quite closely with her and the team. And I could
mm,
see she got these lines activated. So I'm like, how are things going for you today? Because I can see she's worried about something. But I don't want to ask her, what are you worried
mm,
about? Because that can often make people feel a bit defensive, like, "Oh, I'm not worried about anything."
mm,
How are you today?" "Yeah, I'm okay, okay. Okay, you seem a little bit stressed." I'd be asking questions. She'd be like, yeah." Okay, so I still haven't got the answer that I need or can help her with. So then I ask another question, and I keep asking questions that are gentle, kind, and not too, pointed.
mm,
People become defensive when we're too pointed.
mm,
So, is Fred doing his job as he should do? So that's another question I would ask to my client because then it could be because I know she's had problems with Fred before, so it could be that's the source of the anxiety. For oh yeah, actually he's been a real pain. Da 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 da. Okay, there's the
mm,
source of the anxiety. Now I know what she's
mm,
uncertain about. Now I
mm.
can help. I like. So have you thought about dealing with Fred this way? Because it could be that he's also feeling really uncertain about what he needs to do. So for me, body language and facial expressions should be the basis for us to ask a good question, not to assume anything.
And in the professional setup, in the workplace that I am currently a part of, people invest a lot of time and energy to understand a team's morale.
Mm,
But it's very difficult to understand a team's morale just by like questionnaires.
very
Re-
difficult.
yeah, like people would not be giving an honest answer because they're afraid that the answer could be like exposed and they are in trouble. Is
Yes,
there a way in which like a leader can stand in front of their team and they can see the team's morale just by the body language?
totally. Yeah,
Okay.
totally. There is, but remind me, there's two answers to this question.
Okay.
If I forget, there's two answers. The first is, facial expressions and body language, are they all, if the morale is low, their body language will be closed off, there'll be barriers in place, everyone will keep some spells, they'll keep big personal space between each other. If
Hmm.
morale is high, there will be closeness in physical space. There will be genuine smiles, there'll be relaxed body language, they'll be leaning in. When morale is low, they'll be leaning out. They'll be creating space around them because they don't want to be close to these people, they don't like them. If the morale is low and it's due to maybe stuff that's not been spoken about, I often see in teams high levels of contempt or eye rolling. You know, you'll be in a meeting and then you see somebody do that. That's a big red flag for me that there's respect gone. It
Hmm.
can be got back, but it's very difficult to do. Very difficult to do. You know, the half smile, if morale is low, there'll be somebody, I often call them the secret saboteur in a team, whereby there's someone who's leading this and creating this low morale. And it could be because there's a lack of respect for either the leadership, the role, the company, whatever it may be. But that will be, I call it the silent saboteur because people don't pick up on it, but actually it's really dangerous for a team. That's the first answer. The second answer is I created last year a tool called Revealed, and Revealed is works on two photographs, front face and the side profile of the face, and the tool can read traits, characteristics, and who you are. I don't need to know you. And what I can also create is a team report. So this person's ideal communication or way of communicating with this person and the way they communicate will be this way. And what that does, it reveals any gaps in the team. It reveals where the miscommunication, misalignment can be. It's really powerful. I've done quite a lot of those these last few months with teams, and it's really starting to help them have conversations that they haven't been able to have before because they don't know what's really wrong. They just know there's something wrong within the team. Whereas when you start understanding how someone's natural communication style is, and you start to say, okay, they're not being difficult. It's just that's how they communicate. Okay, now I know they communicate that way. I'll adapt my communication so that we get the best out of this interaction. And it properly changes the team dynamics because people start to understand rather than misread.
Wow. From from my understanding, it's very important for leaders then to have the understanding of body language. Um, and it could also be that I've been into a meeting rooms wherein people are super happy. They are
Mm,
just enjoying themselves. The team morale is high, and suddenly a person enters the room and
yeah.
everything falls apart.
Yeah.
So even though the team's morale is high, this specific individual is creating distress within the team's morale. So um, it can be, and you said I forgot the name of the tool that you just
Revealed.
mentioned right now. Revealed
Revealed.
is so technology can be used as one of the factors to identify um, human behavior
Yeah.
and can be used as a tool to as a solution. Now with the advancement of like AI and things like these, is it easy for people just to have an AI like these tools see the photograph and say that this person is in the current mindset,
I mean,
which can,
you
yeah.
couldn't just upload a picture to ChatGPT and say, tell me about this person because it wouldn't work. It
Mm,
would tell you their hair color, their eye color, and I don't know. It wouldn't tell you the deep stuff you need to know. So the tool I created is built on my knowledge base and data that I and an algorithm I've created to run the tool. So I've done this for many years, but what AI has helped me to do is to speed up the report writing. So it used to take
Mm,
me 4 hours to just do an individual person. Now AI built on my knowledge base
mm,
takes 10 minutes.
mm,
So the impact of a team, like analysed a team, used to take me 3, 4 days to analyse a team. Now I can do
mm,
it in an hour. And
mm,
so it makes it very commercially doable for me now because I can do it at a price that works rather than, 4 days of my time, half a day of my time, big difference in cost. So
mm,
AI is, I mean, excellent. It's not got to the point where it can read humans yet, but
mm.
it may get
There
there.
is still a gap,
Yeah.
and it can only, again, it doesn't have the knowledge, I guess, or but it can read the books which are
It can
out
read the
there
book.
about.
It can read the books. Absolutely can read the books, but it's not got the yet. It's
Mm.
not got the capability of reading humans accurately.
And that leads me to the question of micro expression. I've read this somewhere. Like you mentioned, when there is like a smirkiness or like a smile that is just half
Mhm.
smile, or
Mhm.
there's a nose twitching, or the eyebrow spark, are they considered to be micro expressions? Or yeah,
If you
or
capture it in real time, it's called a macro expression. A
mm,
micro expression isn't normally caught in real time. So
okay.
the way I analyze micro expressions is I have to have video footage because even I can't do it in real time. I can capture macro expressions, which last
Mm,
up to 2 seconds.
mm,
Anything under, well, the way I do it is I watch 15 frames per second. That's how you capture micro expressions. But this is
wow.
back to that, what I said to you earlier about the subconscious picking up what we don't consciously pick up. Consciously, I can pick up macro expressions, and everyone can train themselves to do that. What we can't do is consciously pick up the micro expressions. We can do it with slowed down footage, 15 frames per second, but
Mm,
subconscious does pick up the micro expressions. And that's why I say trust your instincts because it might have seen something that you've not consciously seen, but it's picked up that or sign of danger, the danger face. So consciously, no, we can't pick up micro expressions. We can pick up macro expressions, but subconsciously, we do pick up micro expressions.
mm. And I can relate to it that when there is a negative energy reflected at you, and even though the person is just acting normal, you can sense that there is some sort of a negative
Yeah.
energy coming at you from this person. Maybe that I have no idea about micro expression, but I could sense some energy. Like, is
Mm,
it a good energy or is it a bad energy?
yeah.
And maybe that's the my brain reflecting on the micro expression part of things. Um, Another point, or maybe this would be like the ending point of the podcast is there any human part or human body part which is of no use for body language experts? It doesn't show any expression, it's just there.
I mean, that is a really, I have never been asked that question before, and this isn't one of my pre-prepared lines. I have never been asked that question before.
I feel proud.
You well done. Well done. I've done a lot of podcasts and a lot of public speaking, and I've never been asked that. I don't think there is really. I mean, people can train themselves not to show anything, like poker players. A
Mm,
really good poker player hides all of their body language. So then it
mm,
becomes unuseful because you can't read anything because you know that they're holding everything in.
mm.
Um, but no, I don't think there is. Apart from that, I don't think there is anything that's not useful. Head
What about
movements, way we hold our heads, our hands, everything is useful unless someone is deliberately trying to hide it all.
mm. The question popped in my head because I was reflecting on the neck part, right? And I was like, what expressions do neck even show to me? In my head, it was like blank. So that's where the question popped up: is there
Yeah,
even a body part that is like useless for body language experts?
but it's not
But
actually. It's actually very useful.
the neck,
Yeah, because
yeah,
someone who's nervous will touch their neck, will
mm,
protect their neck, or will go to self-soothe their neck. So the neck is actually one of the main ones that I keep an eye on.
Mm. And you said the poker players, they can like they are very well trained so that they don't emit any
Yes,
body language expressions. Um, is that like giving false signals, or is that trying to restrict themselves not to give any
it's
signals?
both sometimes. It's both. Sometimes poker players will try and send false signals, and sometimes they'll just try and restrict everything. So it depends what their gameplay is and how good they are at hiding. They'll often
Mm,
film themselves and watch themselves back. So when they're in a game, they will analyze their own behavior and the other players too, but they'll analyze their own behavior to see because they know what their hands they had at certain times. So they analyze their own behavior to see where they need to restrict or what they do when they're really excited. So then they mimic themselves
mm.
to
Are
try and
there any
confuse.
sports like poker is very important because there's a lot of money involved and people expressions are like key. Are there any other sports like soccer we just talked about? Are there any other sports wherein you consider body language is like the key or the most important thing to know?
I mean, thinking
Uh,
all sports, if the person can visualize their behavior, I did a post on this on LinkedIn last week about the picture we hold of ourselves in our mind is
mm,
the person that we end up being out in the world. So if that picture in our mind is a bit rubbish,
mm,
it'll be a bit rubbish in the world. Sports people in all sports, they hold a picture of themselves, if they're good, of themselves performing at their very best, and they're trained to do this, to visualize what they want to achieve and not focus on what they don't want to achieve. A friend of mine, a coach actually, he was my coach for many, many years and still is. He wants to work with the Manchester United manager, Ruben Amorim, I think his name is. And if you listen to his language and watch his body language, Ruben will often you can see why they're not winning because his language and his body language is not that of a winning team manager. So subconsciously, that's going through to the team.
mm,
He doesn't think we're going to win. Guess what? We don't win. Whereas if you have this picture in your mind of a winner and a team winning, and that will all come through if that is the genuine picture. And it's the same for all sports people. Ronaldo, he often talks about there's no room for anything other than him being a winner. And have a guess what? He is an absolute winner. So, yeah, the mind and body link is so intrinsically, you know, necessary for each other. If we're holding anything negative about ourselves, it will come through our body language. It's what we'll show people. I always say to people, how much do you like yourself? And they look at me a bit blank and they, oh, yeah, I like myself a lot. Okay, well, your body language doesn't show it. So that tells me there's a picture in your head of some area of your life that you don't like or something about yourself you don't like. The more you genuinely like yourself, and this is how we build true confidence, actually, the more we genuinely like ourselves. And I'm not talking about inflated opinions, but just genuine, I quite like that. I like the shape of this or whatever. That is how we go into the world with confidence, by how much we like ourselves, because our brain says, well, if I don't like me, why should anybody else like me? And then we have self-doubt and then we don't perform as well. Whereas if we genuinely like where we are and what we're doing, we perform better.
and authenticity is the key from what I
Totally. Totally.
understand.
Yeah.
And with that, it has been a pleasure. We
Thank you.
have covered like an hour, and I also feeling a bit proud to ask a question that you have never been asked. So
You
I'm feel
really did. You really did. Well done. Big ticks for you. Big, big ticks.
thanks a lot. And for all the listeners out there, do you have any um, links or any sites that you want to promote?
I'm on LinkedIn, as you know, so just Adrienne Carter on LinkedIn. I put a lot of content on, and there's a lot of content on TikTok, which my username is Adrienne at Adrienne Body Language. And you'll find me on those two channels mostly.
Okay, so that's great, and we'll also put that in the link or
Thank you.
in the podcast. But it was a pleasure, and thanks a lot for accepting this. And
Thank you,
now
Gabrielle.
I'll stop the recording.